Hi, my name is Miriam Temeskin, and this is the Black TV Show podcast. This is where I talk about my favorite TV show episodes. Currently talking about season 2 of The Cosby Show. Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 43, The Cosby Show season 2, episode 20, Close to Home. This episode aired March 13th, 1986. We start off in the Cliff and Claire's bedroom, and Claire is wearing Cliff's sweatshirt, but asks Cliff, can I wear the sweatshirt? And he's like, you're already wearing it. And so she's like, thank you. And so he asks, like, why does every time she goes to these pottery classes, she's wearing his sweatshirts? And she was like, it's comfortable, and it reminds me of you. You know, that's what she said to him. And Cliff was like, yeah, right. Look at me when you lie. The only reason why she's wearing them is so she doesn't get her own clothes dirty. And Cliff says, like, I don't even wear any of your clothes. And Claire was like, yeah, because all your curves are in the wrong places. That's such a diss right there. Oh my God. Claire, like, yeah, whatever. So Cliff doesn't even want a kiss from her. I don't blame you, Cliff. I really don't blame you. And so then Cliff is in the kitchen and he's making pate for Dr. Morgan because he's coming over to talk about the hospital fundraiser. And before he does that, Claire, tells Cliff that, they should have the carnival again, just like last year, because she enjoyed it. And Cliff was like, I didn't enjoy it. And Claire says, well, you sitting up there while you get dunked, it's like, it's fun. And he's like, it's not fun for me. I get dunked and I'm cold. And every boyfriend that ever dated Denise comes with a lot of change and look at him and like ready to dunk him. And so Cliff is in the kitchen making pate, and Rudy wants to try some, and Cliff is like, no, there's like disgusting like insects that are part of this and gross stuff. And she still wants it after all the things that he listed that is in it. And so then Rudy says, she wants Dunk Daddy, and Cliff was like, no, Dunk Daddy. And so Vanessa comes down and asks, like, have you seen a blue folder? By the way, I feel like I talked about this at the beginning of this year, but this episode is such a pivotal episode in my own personal life. I always go back to this episode because whenever I lose things, because I do lose a lot of things, I always think about this. Vanessa losing her paper. And the fact that we're going to see later on that they retrace her steps on finding that paper. And I always think about that in my own personal life. She'd written a history paper that was 7 pages, 855 words, and 3 weeks of her life that she might have lost, And first of all, back then there was no Microsoft Word. So how does she know it was 855 words? Does she count every single word? I have a question on that. Like, someone let me know, how does she know how many words? Because I definitely know Microsoft Word was not a thing then. So it was weird to me that she actually knew how many words. And so then Cliff asked, did you take out the paper out of this house? And she was like, no. And so Cliff was like, well, it's in the house then. And Rudy says, I can help. And Vanessa was like, no, thank you. And Cliff was like, no, that's not a bad idea. She's known for finding things that don't belong to her. So Vanessa said, okay, we'll go look right now. And so Cliff goes into the living room with the pate, and Theo and Cockroach come in with with glasses, like blackout glasses, basically. It's sunglasses. And it's nighttime at this point. And the reason why they're wearing the glasses is for their homework assignment. They decided to do a rap for their homework assignment. And Theo comes in, takes off his jacket and sees the pate. He's like, pate! And Cliff was like, no, this is for the guest. And Cockroach was like, okay, then I'll grab. And Cliff was like, you're not a guest. You've never been a guest. And so the doorbell rings, and Cliff is about to go to open the door, but then he noticed that Theo and Cockroach were going to grab the pate, so he takes the tray with him, and he opens the door, and it's Dr. Morgan. He comes in, and he, of course, he's coming over to talk about the hospital fundraiser, and he comes in, and Cliff right away is like, no dunking booth. And Theo says hi to Dr. Morgan, says, have you ever met a cockroach? And he's like, I've never met a cockroach. Like, he was thinking like the cockroach, like the insect, the gross, really disgusting insect. Dr. Morgan asks you if that's a mustache. Why do I keep saying mustache? I even said that in the last episode. Mustache. And if it's his, and Theo's like, yeah, it's mine. And Cliff says like the first time he noticed that Theo had a mustache, Doctor was the first when Dr. Morgan just mentioned it. Dr. Morgan tells the boys that they're going to Morehouse College in Atlanta, Georgia, which is a all boys college. It's a HBCU. If I was a man, I probably would go to Morehouse. And it's and Dr. Morgan says it's a good school because he went there. And Cliff says Theo's going to make up his own mind going into college. And Theo's like, my dad told me that I have to go to Hillman. And Dr. Morgan grabs some pate, and Cliff says, in Morehouse, they give you peanut butter, but at Hillman, they always give you pate. And once Dr. Morgan says, let's go for the weekend and drive down to Morehouse, spend Saturday, Sunday there, and then on our way back, stop by to Hillman. And Cliff was like, okay, whatever. And so then all of a sudden Theo and Cockroach try to grab some of the pate, and Cliff was like, hey, just take it upstairs. Like, I know, like, he basically knew that they're going to finish it all. And so they go and take it upstairs. And so Cliff and Dr. Morgan get down to business talking about the fundraiser. And Cliff suggested that they should do a banquet. Dr. Morgan says they did that 5 years ago. They didn't make any money. And Cliff says, what about auction? And Dr. Morgan says that they did that 6 years ago and it did worse than the banquet. And Cliff says, well, the economy was down back then. I'm not sure if the economy, I don't know much about the 1980 economy. I know, in 2008, the economy was bad. There was, it was a huge depression. And then I remember from like history class that there was a Great Depression in the 1900s, but I don't know exactly when. I can't remember. So I'm not sure what the economy was in the 1980s, if that was true, the economy was bad back then. So Dr. Morgan says last year that they made the most money from the carnival. And so he decides to take out these papers and mentions that, Morehouse taught us how to make a profit. And Cliff was like, okay, whatever. And so, $900 here, $800 there. And then the dunking booth was $28,000. That is a lot of money for a fundraiser. Damn. That is true. If you make so much money from an activity, keep doing that activity. Do that. That's the number one thing with business, okay? And Cliff says, okay, let's do it, but why do I have to sit in it? And Dr. Morgan says, because, people liked how you fell and acted really mad. And Cliff was like, acting? I was not acting. And so Denise and Claire comes home from pottery class, and Denise is laughing at Claire because of what she made for the class, and, tells her to show what she made. And Cliff says, and they're going back and forth, Denise and Claire. And so finally Cliff was like, Dr. Morgan and I are getting old here, sitting here, just show us at the same time. So they show what they made. So what we see is with Denise's pot, it looks like a normal flower pot that you put flowers in it. And then Claire, I don't know how I describe it. It has the same color as Denise's, but it has an indent into it. I don't know what you would use it for. I'm not sure. I'm clueless. I would be laughing too if someone made it something like that. And Cliff is examining Claire's pot. And Dr. Morgan says, they're both beautiful. And Claire was like, oh, thank you. And Cliff was like, no, and that's not true. One is definitely not. And I'm not naming any names. Claire, just name the person, okay? And so Denise says, let it sit in the kitchen counter so someone can put something in it, and then that's how we know what it is. And Claire says, the only reason you wanted to take this pottery class was to make fun of me. And Denise says, she said that Claire does everything so great, and it's great to see her mess up for once. I feel like I'm that type of person. When I see someone, if I meet someone that's super perfect, I'm like, I just want you to mess up for once. Like, because I tend to mess up all the time. So I understand what Denise is going through. Even like when like I was in high school where like there was someone that always get 100% on every test. I'm like, can they just mess up in one of the subject? That's literally how I was thinking. Claire says she's gonna go make tea and offers Dr. Morgan if he wants some, and he's like, yeah. And Cliff was like, yeah, I want tea. And she was like, yeah, right. No, that's not gonna happen. And Cliff says, don't get mad at me. He was telling the truth. And Claire says, you can't tell the truth and be my friend. And so Cliff takes the pots to the kitchen and says, like, this might frighten the guests. And so you see Dr. Morgan's face. He started laughing, and then all of a sudden he starts crying. And Cliff comes back and says, we should put Claire in the dunking booth. And then all of a sudden Cliff looks at Dr. Morgan's eyes and asks, like, are you okay? And Dr. Morgan says, I gotta go. And Cliff was like, well, we haven't, like, finished what we're doing. And so finally Dr. Morgan says to Cliff, you have a beautiful family. Don't ever take it for granted. And Cliff says, let's go to my office. And so they go to his office. And so we end Act 1 there, and we go into Act 2. And Dr. Morgan says, he feels so stupid, like even talking. And Cliff was like, well, a Morehouse man is supposed to feel stupid. And Dr. Morgan says, like, when I saw Claire and Denise together, it reminds me of Sarah and Cindy. So Sarah is his wife and Cindy is his daughter. And so Sarah's fine, but the problem is Cindy, who deals with alcohol abuse and cocaine abuse. And she's been going to rehab 3 times in the last year and a half. And when this first happened, he told her, how much he loved her and that they'll do anything to help her. And I feel like I can't really do this scene justice, so we're gonna listen to him talk about it. This is a very serious topic that a lot of people deal with. I remember back in high school, they always had these PSAs about drug abuse, especially like cocaine is a very hard drug. So I want y'all to listen up.
Sarah's fine. Okay, good. The problem is Cindy.
What's wrong with Cindy?
Cocaine, alcohol.
You're kidding me.
We just put her back into a rehab center. It's the 3rd one she's been in a year and a half. See, when Sarah and I first found out that she had this problem, we sat her down, talked to her.
Yeah.
We told her that we loved her very much and they would do anything to help. See, she said she wanted help. So we sent her to the counselor. She went alone. Sarah and I went with her.
Yeah.
She just wasn't getting better, so we found the best rehabilitation center in the city. It worked. When she got out, it was like Sarah and I had our little baby again. About 3 or 4 weeks, everything was fine. Then she disappeared. 3 days, she was gone. Sarah and I were going crazy. The police couldn't even find her. And then in the middle of the night, got a phone call. Daddy, please, can I come home? Come get me. She was living with a boy I didn't even know. A filthy apartment. I found her. Curled up on a mattress in the corner of the room. When I picked her up, she went limp in my arms. Just like when she was a little baby. She'd fall asleep in front of the TV and I'd take her up to bed. Well, we put her back into the rehab center. This time when she got out, she said to me, Daddy, I'm gonna make it this time. Everything's gonna be fine. For a couple of months, everything was fine. And money started disappearing from Sarah's purse. I started seeing changes in Cindy. Physically, she wasn't right. I mean, did she think we were so stupid that we couldn't see these things? I want to know, how did it get into my house? What was she doing with it? Sneaking out in the middle of the night? Sarah and I both going day by day, not knowing if she's alive or dead. Oh, Cliff, this is killing me. It's killing a mother, and it's ripping my family apart. I just want to know, what did you do? How did you keep it from your kids?
I don't know. I know that Claire and I do the same thing that you and Sarah have done. And, it's just luck. I don't. It sounds like you and Sarah have done all you can. It's up to Cindy now. Does she know she's tearing up the family? You want me to talk to her?
No, Cliff, I've had people she respects talk to.
I beg your pardon.
Oh, I don't mean it that way. I mean people that she loves and that she knows have sat down with her one-on-one. And it hasn't made any difference. Yet.
Maybe this time, Cindy will do it.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Cliff says that, I did the same thing as he did with parenting, and it must be just luck. It's hard because with raising a family, you try your best to make sure that kid goes on the right path, but sometimes they don't. I know that growing up, I was very close with my community, and at this point in my life, in 2021, to literally during the pandemic, I even with people from my high school, me and my friend, we went through where are they now? Where are all these people? And some people are thriving. They're doing their dream job. They're married. They have kids, or some of them have gone to jail, or have had issues. There's a few people that I know that had teen pregnancies and had to deal with that, but they are now thriving. And so it is luck. You just hope that, your kid will turn out the way, not perfect, because no one's ever perfect, but they will turn out to be great people and make a great impact in this society. And so Cliff, even offered, do you want me to talk to her? And Dr. Morgan was like, that she's talked to people that she's admired, but it still hasn't worked. And Cliff was like, let me try. And so Cliff says, this is the first time a Morehouse man has had nothing to say. And Dr. Morgan says, this is the last time a Morehouse guy comes to a Hillman man for advice. And they both leave the office and they go to the living room, and Claire says, oh, there you are, but your tea is cold. And Dr. Morgan's like, I gotta go, I'm sorry, I have to leave. And so then Cliff talks to Dr. Morgan to the side and says, if you need anything, just come to him, come to me, basically. So when Dr. Morgan leaves, Claire asks, what was that all about? And Cliff says, how lucky we are. And Cliff says that, he will tell her when they're both very, very happy. And Theo and Cockroach come down to do the rap for them. And so they do the rap and they talk about the fun things in life that are not including school. Just going to the mall and all that stuff like that. And so Cliff interrupts their rap and says, studying is fun. Learning subjects is fun. You need to include that into your rap, and that means that they have to do it all over again. And Theo's like, really? We gotta do it all over again? And so Cockroach was saying, we should have done this at my house. We would have been over this by now. And so it's later in the evening, and Denise is putting flowers in her pots, and Denise says to Claire, I think I know what your pot is used for now. It's for use tea bag holder. So funny. She's just trolling Claire. Really, she's really trolling her. And Claire says, this is high art, okay? You would pay a lot of money for this, basically. And Denise says, you know what it's calling me? It's calling me for a hot tea bag. And Claire tries to hurt her, and Denise calls out for Cliff. And Cliff is like, don't fight in my clothes, because that's all he hears about, his clothes. And Vanessa comes down while Denise leaves, and she says, I'm doomed. She looked everywhere, and, after tomorrow, she's going to have to drop out of school. And so Cliff was like, Rudy wasn't a good help for you? And so Vanessa says, Rudy found a keychain, chopsticks, Claire's gold earrings, and $3 in change. And Cliff was like, that's mine. And Vanessa says, after tomorrow, she's going to drop out of school. And Cliff says, let's retrace your steps. As I said, this is the scene that I always go back with my own real life. I literally go back to this scene every time that I have a vivid image of this scene. And since this is such an impact in my own personal life, I want y'all to hear it firsthand from them, how they're retracing their steps to get Vanessa's history paper back.
I looked everywhere.
You did? And Rudy was no help?
She found your fountain.
Good.
A keychain, a pair of chopsticks, your gold earrings.
Great!
And $3 in change.
That's mine.
Dad, after tomorrow, I'll have to drop out of school.
Okay, Vanessa, why don't we retrace our steps, all right? Now, the last time you remember having it, where were you?
In the kitchen. I came downstairs and I had it in this hand.
In this hand. Came downstairs. Where did you go?
I called Janet.
Oh, that sounds logical. All right. So you called Janet, right? Talking on the phone. Hello, he said, she said. What did she say? And I didn't do that. No, that's not right. And he said, she said.
Dad.
No, I'm serious. You got to say it and we said. Now, what did you do next?
Well, I got hungry.
Got hungry. So you hung up the phone.
No.
Huh? No.
Phone. I got some potato chips.
Potato chips back here. So what? No, call me back. You tell him who said, we said, we're going to say, and get the potato chips, right? Potato chips and the paper, right?
I got thirsty.
Thirsty. All right. So
Got a glass.
Get a glass. Got a glass. He said, yes, please, said, and we said, oh, you're kidding. Well, I didn't say
Then
that.
I got a soda out of the
Get
refrigerator
the soda
and
out of
poured
the
it in the
refrigerator.
glass.
He said, we said, you said, and everybody said, said, right? So to take that out.
It wasn't cold enough.
It wasn't cold enough. So
I got
now
some ice out of
get
the
some ice out of the freezer. All right. So we go in the freezer, and this is what we have here.
You want me to put it in the oven and thaw it out for you?
No!
So she's super happy that she found her paper, and Theo and Cockroach comes down, and she says, it was in the freezer, and they're like confused, like, what is she talking about? And so they come down and they said that they finished their wrap, and they wanted to basically show, I was going to say show, but say the rap to Cliff and Claire. And so they actually listened to Cliff's advice, and they talked about how studying is fun. We're going to end this podcast episode with their rap. So basically this episode so we have two guest stars. We had Samuel E. Bright, who played Dr. Morgan. Stuff that he's done, majority of the things he's done is voice acting for The Little Mermaid as Sebastian. And then, of course, Carl Anthony Payne. He's in this episode. He was in the last episode, and he's going to be in the next episode. He's literally in 3 episodes in a row. Crazy. And so the lesson for this episode is be grateful for your life as someone else has it worse than you. It reminds me of the song by J. Cole, Love Yours. Literally, if you listen to his song, you're like, wow, I should just be grateful for the life I have. Like, you know, there's someone that's going to have it worse. There will always be someone that has better than you. So you can't, just don't think about those people, but think about, you know, I have a roof over my head. I have my family together, alive, healthy, and, you know, I have food in my stomach, you know, I have food in my fridge, I get to sleep every night, you know, like, just be grateful for the life you have. And that we learned from this episode, because, like, Dr. Morgan sees what Cliff's life is like, and, you know, he wants that life where, you know, he can have a happy family. You know, Claire and Denise fighting over or laughing at each other for the pottery. Like, he will take that any day. You know, unfortunately, he doesn't have that situation in his own life. So that is the lesson I think the main lesson I really take away from this episode. And the question I have for you guys is, what are you grateful for? Use the hashtag close to home at Black TV Shows Pod. I would love to hear from what are the things that you're grateful for. as I mentioned to you, I'm grateful for, having a bed that I can sleep at night, food filled fridge filled full of food. Financially I'm good. So let me know at Black TV Shows Pod at Twitter and Instagram, #close to home. And the next episode is The Cosby Show Season 2, Episode 21, An Early Spring. And I will see you all on the next one.
This rap was written by the Roach and Theo. So, Mom and Dad, here we go. This is your life to do something with. Don't be too scared to compete. Don't stand around and keep losing ground, or you end up on the street. Hey, you gotta do something with your life, or don't be too scared to try. Don't develop a frown and just stand around until life just passes you by. Hey, and when you do wake up and begin to see that life ain't a piece of cake, whether you win real big or lose real bad, you gotta sleep in the bed you make. Cause this is your life to do something with. Don't be too scared to be out. Don't stand around and keep losing ground, or you end up on your feet. Hey, you gotta keep burning that midnight oil, cause that's a fact that still remains. Hey boy, you gotta study hard. You gotta study long. You gotta exercise your brains, because this is your life to do something with. Don't be too scared to compete. Don't stand around and keep losing ground, or you end up on the street. Ow! Or you end up on the street. Ow! Or you end up on the street.